All right. So what's up? What's up? What's popping? Hey man, it's Nate Dogg 9162 live from Sacramento with the homie.
The Homie Rascal. Welcome to the Homie Hangout, where we help others move in excellence. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and we have with us.
Hoodie from the hood, aka your friend from that big O N, aka the world's most dangerous you, aka the smooth operator.
Okay,
I like
so
that.
uh,
I like
so
that.
this conversation has been a while in the making, and I'm looking forward to it. But I know that Nate and I had done a video, uh, really back in October, but it just got uploaded recently about kind of the difference in gangbanging, and you had seen that and had some thoughts on it. So let's start there.
Yeah, y'all was just pretty much talking about how in the '90s at the height of gangbanging, how it was more of a I would say everyday thing. Like it was more serious. Not to say it's not serious now, because it is, but it's not. And I look, I had this conversation with my big homies. This is why I wanted to chime in. Literally last week or the week before, I pulled up on some of my older homies and we was chopping it up. We was just talking about the differences in gangbanging. And he was saying how back in the days you couldn't miss him. How he hung on 47th Street. He
Right.
like, man, the big homies had to run into me. They had to see me. You know what I'm saying? Because I was out here every day. He like, these little dudes. I'm like, you right. Everybody don't live in the hood like that back in the days. He lived in the hood. The big homies lived in the hood. So just walking to the store, walking to school, you gonna see these dudes. So it wasn't no ducking and dodging. It wasn't no, if you did something you had to answer for, because you're gonna see these dudes every day. Yeah, of course they was going and getting out in and out,
Right.
but you had to answer to somebody. Nowadays, these little dudes don't live in the hood. Nobody live in the hood. They just come over there, come hang out.
Right.
Uh, and it's just a little different because they'll still pull up if you summons them. They're gonna pull up,
Right.
but it's not the same as I caught you coming out the store. I know your mom. I know your auntie. Like you can't
Right.
run. You know what I'm saying?
And- and-
Nowadays, these dudes will live 30 minutes away and
yeah.
just come over here and hang out and go back home.
And
Right.
and and to piggyback off what you just said, like in my generation, and I'm sure Josh should chime in on not only did we hang out in the hood, that's all we were that we didn't want to be with nowhere else.
Right.
It's like it wasn't about, oh, we live over here, but we bang this. We bang this. This is where we live. We started out banging it because this is where we live. This is where we grew up at. So it's like, what I want to go somewhere else for?
Right.
Like when I was a youngster, I
Right.
can speak for myself. When I was a youngster, I didn't want to be in no other neighborhoods. For what? If I was going to another neighborhood, and once again, not promoting any kind of bull crap, but if I was going to another neighborhood as a teenager, I was going for some bull crap. I wasn't going to say hi, hang out, go to a house party. If I was going to a house party, the police was going to end up getting called. You know what I mean? If it was in a different neighborhood. So it's like now you can, like most of the people from my neighborhood, bruh, in my generation, I've known them since the sandbox. Like we was little kids at daycare to preschool to high school to whatever the situation was. It wasn't no, oh yeah, I know, bruh, but he only lived out here for like 2 years. Nah, it wasn't none of that. You mean
Right.
now times have changed these days to where a cat had come out here and put in some work, and now I guess he not. I'm not saying necessarily out here. I don't know where because I'm not out there dealing with the youngsters.
Right.
But you can come out here and do something now, and oh, he from the hood. Who is
Right.
mama? Who is mama?
Right. No,
Who,
and that's what
who
the
is
homie
daddy?
told me. He was like, he was talking about a specific homie, and he like, man, we don't know that nigga mama. We don't know that nigga. And I'm like, look, homie, I understand that. Times have changed. The homie lived in the hood his whole life. His mama still live in the hood.
Right,
Lived in the hood. Just because you don't know his mama, she still
Mm.
live in the hood.
right,
And he went to every school over here. Like he's from the hood. Whether you got that
right.
relation, because the older you get, the more disconnected you get from
Right.
the newer generation.
Yep.
So I'm a little younger than them, so I'm still connected.
Right.
And I'm connected to y'all, but y'all not connected to them little dudes.
Right.
They
Yeah.
looking at me like, hey, what's up with these little dudes? And I'm
Yeah.
like, shit, them is my little niggas. Just like I was your little niggas, these is my little niggas. You know what I'm saying? But like you were saying, as far as like moving out the hood or going out the hood, I moved out the hood, moved to an area called Oak Park. We got an Oak Park out here. We got an Oak Park out here. But Oak Park is wasn't a gang. I mean, it was as far as like the essays, but not a black gang.
Right.
So it was just everybody lived Crips, Bloods, everybody. So that's how I was able to meet other people. And I moved over there in elementary school. I was still a kid, even though I had my hood info.
Okay.
But I was like in 4th grade when I moved there. So I met all these dudes from other hoods and came back to the hood. Ended up moving back in the hood. But before I moved back in the hood, I would still go to the hood and go hang out. But niggas already knew me.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, okay, so and with saying that, like, so my adolescent years personally, right? I ain't living no other hoods during my adolescent years. Like, obviously, when I got grown and when I got out of prison, obviously, I lived in the hood when I first got out of prison. But my main intention when I got out of prison was to move out of the hood, like, because I didn't want my kids growing up in the hood. But that's after, obviously, that's at 38 years old. That's a whole different mindset. But as a kid, bro, I can't look. I was in a group home, fam, when I was 14 years old, man, and they was like, "You can go home, but your mom moved." I'm like, "Where she moved to?" And they was like, "She moved to Oak Park." Yeah, I ain't going there. I ain't going there. I'll stay here. You better call somebody else to come get me. And my mom literally, no bull crap. My mom literally had to move from Oak Park back to the Heights in order to get me back because I refused to go home. I'm like, I'm not going to, and just, I'm not living out there. Y'all gotta, I'm not living out there.
Look, hey, look, I could relate. I could relate because look, when I moved from Oak Park, I moved over in the 30s for a quick second, and then I moved to Emerald Hill,
right,
which is enemies to us. I lived over there for about 4 years, and then I moved back to the.
But see, I already knew that I didn't want to go there because every weekend, almost every weekend, they let us go on a pass, right, from the group. Almost every weekend, I got into a fight. Almost every week, and almost every weekend, I got my ass whooped. I ain't even gonna front. Like, because it was too many of them. It wasn't nothing I can do. Like, my mom lived in Oak Park. I went to Oak Park, and them niggas went, and I was young, wild, and I wasn't trying to hear none of that. Hey, where you from? I'm from the Heights. Where you from? I'm from where you at. So what? I never heard of it. And of course, you know what happens after that. The light skin, for sure. Right. Oh, and after that, the light-skinned nigga gets beat up. That's what happens. It's cool. I ain't too tough to say I got beat up because it happened a lot between 14 and 16 when I was there. But
see, for me, the whole, like, the neighborhood aspect, it's a little bit different only because I did bounce around a lot, right? So a lot of, juvenile time, group homes, foster homes. So I popped around a lot of different neighborhoods in the Bay Area. But it was always spots where I knew, right? But you are right to your kind of original point, Hoodie, of people being out there to hold folks accountable, right? That still exists. And if you were known to them, you were known to them, right? And so
and it still exists. Like I said, them dudes don't live in the hood, but it's nothing to get them on the phone and, hey man, you did this, or we need to holler, and they're gonna pull up and they're gonna take their lashings, but it's not the same. And real fast, Cartoon, shout out to Cartoon. Cartoon has said this too. He said when he go back to LA now, when he go to South Park and hang out in this hood, he like, man, you got the big homies. They just got off work. They got their work vest on. Right. They out here in their uniform. He's like, we used to be G'd up back in the days. They probably didn't have no job. All they did was whatever to survive. But he like, now these little dudes, they coming up here with, he didn't know what it was, them Crocs on and stuff like that. He like, man, it's just a different time because you don't have these dudes out here 24/7 that you got to answer to. He gonna show up for a while, but he got to go. Right. He got to go. He got to go pay rent. He got to go to work. He got to go back to his house. It's not the same. He don't live on the corner no more. The big homie don't live on the corner. You don't got to walk past his house.
Well, and so what you have
a little different.
I remember you did a video about the differences between banging in Northern California and Southern California, right? And what you have in the Bay Area especially, and I don't know how much it happens down there, is the gentrification, right? So a lot of hoods in the Bay Area have become more wealthy neighborhoods, frankly, and those folks get pushed out to other little pockets. But how you were describing going to that neighborhood and there wasn't really a gang from there, but there was a bunch of people from a different gangs that lived there. You're seeing that more and more in the Bay Area of cities where historically there wasn't a whole lot going on, but now you have these little hybrid groups of like Antioch, where you got cats from 100 different parts of Oakland and Richmond and San Francisco and other areas, plus the dudes that been getting busy over there for a long time before, and now everybody's all kind of mixed up. And
the politics get twisted, and the alliances, and they form new stuff.
Right, you got people that otherwise didn't get along back home, right? But it's, you know, this person's from that part of Oakland, this person's from that part of Oakland, but now they're in the same apartment complex in Antioch, and they're like, okay, well, like I'm 30 minutes, you know, we're 30 minutes from Oakland, and we're just here because mom moved here, right? But now there's these dudes from the city over there. Well, we're not from the city, we're from Oakland, so now all of a sudden they link up, right? Because they have something in common. They're not such rivals anymore. You know, now they have more in common and they do different, and you get these whole different little games, which is a pain to keep up on.
I'm gonna tell you the difference, and it's kind of the same. Like let's just say, for instance, like in a place like LA, a lot of people moving to Lancaster, Palmdale, like the outskirts. They're not necessarily forming new cliques out there. They still banging their hood out there. They're running into their enemies out there, and they still having problems out there with each other. They're not like joining new alliances. They're still keeping it traditional. This is what I mean by the difference is, you know, the mentality as far as the destruction and the representing something is still there on both sides of California, but the objective and the agenda has changed. Down here, there's no cliques like with Crips and Bloods in it. There's no cliques like that. When we was young, like I said, there was. Like when I was in Oak Park, we was kids, 9, 10, 11. You want to be a Piru, you want to be a Blood, you want to be a Crip, and we'll be a little clique until you get a little older and you're like, all right, I'm just banging my gang. But as far as like us being grown, there's no grown men from gangs with other gang members, and then they'll choose the clique over the gang. Like that's not happening out here. I know it's happening in a lot of places, but in Southern California, it's still traditional for the most part.
And now,
well, see, like in the Bay, you didn't have so much of the Blood Crip aspect to it, right? So it's more hood stuff, right? It's I'm from this section, you're from that section. Our sections don't get along, but shit, we both from this city, and now we're over here, and we can kind of put that to the side. Now I know, like in Stockton and those areas, there's more of that, which I don't really understand. Like that's not my area, that's not my lane at all. So I don't quite get it. I know Nate.
Right.
Well, in Sacramento for sure, when I was a kid, you was from your neighborhood, period. Like period. Like there wasn't no gray area. When I came home in 2014, like all respect due to the youngsters out there doing their thing. Please don't take this as disrespect. But you got these cliques that, like he was just saying, you got dudes that was from Crip neighborhoods or Blood neighborhoods or non-affiliate neighborhoods, even that, and they're all clicked up together as a clique, like Zilla and Beast Mob, and they got all these different cliques in Sacramento. Like when I was a kid, there was no way that Del Paso Heights was clicked up with anything, let alone something from the South area. Right now, these days, they are. You know, they clicked up with the Stars. You know what I mean? And everybody's against the Zillas. So like, but the crazy thing is like,
before you got out, did you start to see that? Did you start to see them coming in before you got out? And you like,
they had just started to come into the pen before I got out. And I'm gonna just say we didn't really see eye to eye. We didn't have no real issues other than one time, but we didn't really see eye to eye because after I got to the pen, like my first 115 in the pen was for getting on somebody from SAC. And I was exercise DP'd, right, for that. And I had to learn that in here is Sacramento. Like, it's not you from the Heights, he from Oak Park, he from Valley High, whatever. It's Sacramento. So then to come home and see that it's still like it was even different than before I left. And it's like my mentality is like Sacramento, bro. Like I just spent 18 years of my life representing Sacramento. Like, yeah, I'm from the Heights. That's where I was born, not born, but bred most of my life. But well, from the time I was 2 to the time I went to prison. So to see that now it's all split up and diversified and compartmentalized into all these different groups. But y'all funking with them. But I just saved his big homie life when we was on the full yard. And his big homie, like I've got an interview on my channel. His big homie will take me to y'all main park, a Heights nigga, and have me sit in the middle of y'all big park and interview him for YouTube. And bet not nobody say nothing.
But it goes back to this. It goes back to what I said about I could tell you how to be 35. I could tell you how to be 21 or 20, but you can't tell me how to be 35. Right. You could tell a nigga how I go behind the wall, but if he ain't been behind the wall, he not smelling what you selling. Right. So a lot of this stuff comes from people who never been to prison, so they don't understand that. Hey, when you go behind here, they hear you, but everybody think, well, that ain't gonna happen to me because I ain't gonna get caught. So they're not even buying into that ideology because they don't feel like they're going. And then the people who have been there and then come home and revert back to that, I understand it too. It's like you know better, but at the same time, the rules out here on the street is different than the ones in the people. So I might be cool with a nigga from the other side, but my little homies is still at war with these dudes. Right. So,
and that's what it is for me. That's what it is for me now.
And now on the flip side of that, you have in California prison changing so much. See, because for the north-south element, I speak obviously for the north, but pretty similar. Don't have to worry about that, right? Like 99% of the time, shout out to Border Brothers. That's kind of maybe the main exception, right? To Oakland and other spots that got Border Brothers. But aside from that, 99% of the time, if you're banging, you're a northern or a southern, right? And so there's no hybrid stuff going on, right? And
there's no street.
You carry that, right? And you carry that wherever you go, right? And then obviously you go to prison, but even on the streets, a lot of times that identity is superior to your neighborhood identity, right? Especially as they've made real efforts to not have, red on red, Northerners fight Northerners, right? But do you go to prison? And I could talk about how prison was when I was in there, but it's a radically different environment in there now. So I'll have conversations with people. Well, why is it like this? And I can't relate to what they're doing. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong because I'm not in prison. So it really doesn't matter what I think of what they're doing, but it is different for sure.
Can I ask you a quick question?